Hi, everyone. I'm Calum. I'm a community manager at Akash Network. And today I'm sitting down with Alon Burg, who is the co founder of Astria, a platform for fine tuning and running generative image models at scale, with a focus in the fashion industry for e commerce and model headshots. They've been running production workloads on Akash for over a year now. So we are going to get into what that looks like at scale, the GPUs, the numbers, what worked and what didn't. So, Alan, welcome. Thanks for taking this call.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin, for having me. It's Akash has have been a tremendous partner, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. And so, just to get started, I am going to have you introduce Astria in case anybody hasn't come across it yet. So, I would love for you to give me your story. What do you build, and how did you get here?
Sure. So initially, about 4 years ago, we started as the first company to do fine tuning for generative image models. Back then, I think came the paper for Dream Booth, and everybody were trying to figure out how is this going to play out, whether we're going to have small models or bigger ones. Right now, it seems like the big foundational models are winning the market, but back then it seemed like a really good use case to try and train on a specific concept. And so we became the main go-to provider to train for a specific concept, which turned out to be mainly for headshots and avatars. And so we had many customers who were building headshot apps, whether mobile services or web services, photo shoot apps, and like event applications and photo booths. Since then, I think many things changes. We went all the way from Stable Diffusion 1.4, 1.5, Flux, and the necessity for GPU power is just tremendous. The competition on pricing, the market is very competitive, and it's hard to come by with an infra that's reliable and that actually has like good networking, that's resilient, that has a good bandwidth, that's audited, a way to bring up Docker images that are pre-warned. So yeah, obviously I think we went through all the possible providers out there, from
Mhm.
Lambda Labs to RunPod to CoreWeave to AWS. We've
You
seen it
did the
all.
whole circuit. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear more about that. But before, I do want to learn more about Astria, right? Because the AI space is super crowded, and you talked a little bit about the Frontier Labs taking over a lot of the work. So I would want to know a little bit more about what your niche is, right, and what Astria does to that the big general purpose models, what they can't do, and what you guys do instead.
Right. So nowadays, I mean, we still our GPU usage is mainly dominated by usage for avatar and headshots, and in API customers, that's still a dominant part of what we're providing. But in in the recent 6 months, we've actually pivoted because of models like Nano Banana, which sort of change the way that we use models. So there's less usage for fine tuning because now the reference images are working really well. And so suddenly the usage is a bit different. And it's been a few months now, and we've started training our own very custom model from for a specific task that's quite a big issue for e-commerce and for real production cases. It's a like a super resolution with reference, and we finally have our own model, and that's why I'm very excited about this. And hopefully we can this can be a big enabler for starting to work with real B2B enterprises that require this quality and require this extra processing step in order to make sure that all the labels, all the details, even if you like provide 14 references of the shoe, of the garment, of the sunglasses, of the face identity, everything sits really well and correct. And yeah, and that's what we're doing nowadays, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, so just to explain for everybody out there, so what we can do is we can take a model reference, like a real model. And when I say model, I don't mean AI model, I mean like a fashion model,
Yeah.
right? And then we can put different styles of clothing on them. So, and I don't actually know the capabilities. So at this point, I can give you a picture of like maybe a shirt or maybe an outfit, and then you can put them on any of the models that they have provided you a reference image on, right? Is that correct? Okay, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah. So
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
maybe I didn't quite explain that part. So yeah, in the in the recent 6 months, like we've transitioned to doing AI photo shoots. Like we're working with real photographers, people that have traditional experience in working with brands and creative directors who usually manage this like real life photography. They would go to Milano and with models and all the logistics of this and try to convert them to AI, because we understand that brands really care about their specific looks, and they do not want anything that's generic. So the interface and everything around it, it cannot be just like a one click. Someone has to do a real service for these brands, just like they do now, in order to try and encapsulate the brand identity and help those companies transition into AI. And so we're simulating traditional photo shoots into AI in a way that's very specific to the brand identity. And so,
And
yes,
this is a new model, right? That you're using to do that.
basically we're using Nano Banana and Seedream 5 Pro. Anything that comes out, we make it available. That's part of our nowadays platform, just being an aggregator with a good user interface that's very oriented into e-commerce and fashion. All the like bells and whistle of workspaces, like a collaborative multiplayer workspace where you can see the cursor of everyone. You can actually have a voice chat, so it's like a Slack huddle for creative people suddenly. So that's amazing to see people that were used to going to real life, working with models, like sitting behind the camera, and suddenly they behave like tech people who sit
Yeah.
with Slack. So it's a really nice transition. It's not easy always, but it's quite exciting. And I think seeing the people, how they react to the fact that they have the power to create something they envision in such, without any roadblocks, without being dependent on so much logistics, is really nice.
Yeah, you don't have to fly
So
everybody to location. You don't have to, all the changing times and whatnot. So you can really, and you can still have appropriate models, and basically everybody still gets paid in some way. But the process
yeah,
has
yeah, there's
changed
tons of work.
dramatically.
Like I always like find it very baffling to think, to hear about how AI will take our work. It's not going to take our work anywhere soon. If anything, like we're all overworked by the AI models. It's them working us, not the other way around. So there's tons of work, tons of stuff. It's just changing the way that the industry is behaving. Like the industry now needs more media than before, and that's what the kind of the shift that we're seeing. If up until similarly to before the digital age, e-commerce companies would do just pack shots. Nowadays with AI, everyone needs to do on model photo shoots because it increases conversions, and nowadays video as well. So that's the and obviously social media is the milestone that there's so many startups trying to tackle now.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
so
I was going to ask you a question about what was like the customer use case and who's getting the most out of Astria right now. But it sounds like you've talked a lot about elite photographers and brands. So is it more like the brands that come through and want to work with you, or is it usually photographers that are the customer base at the moment?
So I think that there are a wide spectrum of different companies. There are the small DTC like brands that are 2 to 5 SMB businesses,
Hmm.
mainly controlled by the owner. He cares a lot about the identity, the materials, the integrity, and maybe they do not have the budget to do like flies to Milano, and that's why they benefit a lot from the technology. In a way, it's sort of leveling the playing field because it allows small companies to do creatives on a scale that's only has been available for big companies before. And then we're seeing also the bigger companies like 100K SKUs that have a studio, a full warehouse with a bunch of crew that needs to transition and teach all the team members how to start working with AI. And they're adopting it differently, and our partners and agents into this transition are photographers and creative directors, because somebody needs to bring them this transition and teach them. So obviously the brand tries to take as much as possible. The brand is usually close to the stock and to the actual pack shots and to the raw materials, but somebody needs to prepare templates for them. Somebody needs to encapsulate the brand identity, and over time they keep wanting more stuff. So they start with lookbooks, like studio photography. That's very the basic of it. Then they move to editorials and campaigns and social media, and then video and TV commercials and everything. So
Well, that's good. That means business is booming, and I love that for you, and what you're working on. So,
yeah.
in terms of all this work that you're talking about, right? Can you give me a sense of the scale that you're running on Akash right now? I know that you've recently signed on some GPUs for a longer term. So, what are the GPUs that you're using, and how many do you have, so to speak? And do you utilize the spot market to take more whenever you need more?
Yeah. So up until, I mean, the best GPUs obviously to be using are the H100 and H200s. These are like amazing workhorses, and it's really nice to be able to have access to these. I think recently we've seen some price shifts, which made us try to do some more cost-efficient processing with A100s as well. So we've committed to like a base amount that allows us to serve the baseline of our workload, and then we're trying to scale up and down according to peak traffic. We have some logics around the auto scaling for that. And and obviously we have some more services that would require more GPU
Mhm.
power in the near future. So we'll
That
have to
makes
see
sense.
about that.
Yeah, of course, and hopefully we'll be able to scale up with you on that. So
Yeah.
I guess what does that translate to in day to day, right? Like how many images are you generating? In terms of, I guess just saying that the fine tuning is less prevalent now. But in terms of your API and whatnot, what does the flow look like for you?
So I guess it really depends. For the headshots and avatars, we have this flow of fine tuning a model, saving it to like a persistent storage like S3 or R2, and then doing inference, trying to cache it in a smart way that avoids hitting the S3 storage too much. That's could be slowing things down. So in that aspect, I think the cache machines are doing a great job in providing this both network storage, persistent storage, and ephemeral storage. Other than this, and then the inference is the second stage for the headshots. For the e-commerce, we mainly start with Nano Banana, and then we switch to upscaling with some of our custom pipelines, as well as our new custom model for upscaling with reference that tries to improve the quality on logos and text and all sorts of details that are small.
Okay, thanks for that. So earlier, so just to give some background. You've been on Akash for well over a year now. I would love for you to take us back to the beginning. What were you running on before? I know earlier in the conversation, you kind of gave a little hint about you were looking elsewhere as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey, and then what exactly sealed it for you for Akash? Like what made you land on Akash at the end?
Yeah. So really, again, the beginning we were on Lambda Labs, where I think it was the early days of trying to scale inference, and nobody was even talking about consumer side fine tuning. And back then, there was little notion of trying to provision images with Docker images. You would just get the bare metal, and that would mean provisioning a new machine was just slow. Then we switched to AWS. I think working with their infrastructure, it's very costly. It's very easy to get it wrong. There's so many moving parts that made it just impossible to figure out how to get it more cost efficient. Provisioning was taking way too long. The auto-scaling infrastructure, no matter how we skin it and got assistance from account executives and professional support, we couldn't get it efficient. And not to mention just the raw pricing and the scale, the infrastructure were just slow, and the pricing was skyrocketing.
High,
yeah, was quite high. And then finally, we had a brief moment with RunPod. I think that we had issues with the network, slowness in networking. Pulling Docker images was taking sometimes even an hour or 40 minutes. And the machines were not reliable. And then finally, Akash with the H100, the great pricing, and the way that I think many of the Akash providers are enabling, I think it's Kubernetes Metal, which is quite a game changer. So that you're sort of hooking into this namespace, and that means that in many times the Docker image is already pre-cached, so getting an image up and running takes a few seconds in most cases after you've run on the few providers that you're usually provisioning for. And getting the right configuration in terms of memory, disk, and persistent storage, I think everything is possible. So that was really a good option. Took us some time to get the right configuration to match it to the infrastructure. Like I think initially, before going to Akash, we used to provision like one GPU and scale up in one GPU like steps. But since the storage is such a main part of our infrastructure, and sharing storage because of the checkpoints that we pull together, and we're like doing bulk inferencing on the same checkpoint. That is a custom checkpoint for every end customer, not just our API customer, but the end user. So starting to provision in 8 GPUs, full nodes, was a main improvement for us, and also gave us a more reliable way of serving the workload.
So earlier you talked about the economics, right? You said that AWS is more expensive. I just wanted to ask you a question on whether or not these economics of Akash has changed anything for you downstream. Maybe the way you price to your own customers, or how aggressively you can scale. Has that affected you at all in terms of the price?
For sure. So the GPU, the entire inference API and GPU game is very competitive in terms of pricing. Every time, I mean, in all levels of it, I think the data centers, the electricity, the contracts, the commitments, the hyperscalers, the aggregators like us, and the end user applications that are wrapping from foundational models, everything is very competitive. The moment that you get a customer that's having a significant account spend, the customer would start demanding a price reduction that's quite meaningful, because he has the option to go and start implementing it by himself. There's hardly any secrets. I mean, it takes time to implement our pipeline. And yes, we do have some like a recipe that works together, but nothing is secret. Like you have to do all the steps the right way and make sure that you're catering for the right use cases. There are many use cases and being able to switch around them. But in the end, once you get a specific user, they have a very specific kind of usage, and uh, they have enough incentive to be able to just go by themselves and implement their own GPU usage and switch out of us. And so we have to be very competitive in the pricing in order to be able to serve them, both efficient on the inference, on how we bulk and group inference sessions and make it sticky. And so the cash pricing was critical for us in order to be able to preserve some of the customers that were quite demanding and be able to cater for them and give them a good pricing. So yes, in these kinds of markets, like you have to sometimes, I don't know, cut in a way, reduce the margins significantly in order to be able to just preserve a baseline of workload in order to save to serve the long tail of the customers.
Well, how about this? We'll ask another question, and maybe this will scare some of them from wanting to do their own pipelines, right? So, for my next question, I imagine that your whole entire journey wasn't always smooth, right? And so, before you made the move to Akash, was there any hard parts that your team might have expected in using decentralized compute? And then, what actually turned out to be the hard parts about your migration to Akash?
I think that the hard part was trying to settle down on the right infrastructure. I think we've had a lot of back and forth with the team about what providers, how's the reliability, how's the network, where are we getting our pods evicted because of misuse of our quotas and things like that. But other than that, it was the smoothest sailing we've had. Like the Akash team is quite amazing in their support. Like every minute of the day, there's someone around that was responsive and was being helpful. And unlike many companies in which you're gated by a support person that's hardly knowledgeable about the infra, here that's the support level is amazing, and as a result, we were able to get the right infrastructure and to get the right settings in order to navigate our configuration and setup in a way that's resilient, robust, redundant, and that allows us to scale up and down nicely with the peaks of traffic. So, yeah.
So only two more questions left. The first one would be: has the reason that you stayed this long changed over time, or is this still the same steady reason?
You mean with Akash?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. Has that is the main reason that you came in the first place back last year or whenever that was changed over time as now you are a longer term customer of Akash's?
yeah, I think it's the same reason. The pricing is great, the infra is great. Hoping to see more availability and more machines coming up. We are really loving the experience of using Akash, either for research machines or for production workload. It's just super easy to get started, and we've had our like SDLs, like the Kubernetes setup in the right way that we like, and from here it's super nice.
Happy to hear that, and we're working really hard to get more supply on the network, so hopefully that will come through in the near future.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is: what's next on the roadmap for Astria? And now that you've secured some compute on Akash, what are you working on next?
Yeah, so maybe just I don't know, again with the super resolution custom model that we're doing, I'm really hoping that we can finally make a super resolution model that doesn't hallucinate details, but actually is able to deliver details that are grounded in raw, like real references. And I think there's a great market for this. There's a great demand for imagery that's realistic and that looks like the raw product that's meant to be. And that's what I'm excited about.
Awesome. Well, I do hope that after you're done with that special model of yours, that you will definitely find a bigger moat, let's say, and making it harder for, like you were hinting at, for your end users to just simply do the same thing, right? So,
Yeah.
all the luck to you on that. But with that, that's basically all the questions I have for you, Alon. Thank you so much for doing this and for being so open about the whole ride regarding the tough times and the good times that you had with Akash. And this is really what makes these case studies worth watching. And so, for everybody else, if you want to see what Astria is building, you can check them out at astria.ai. And I will put the link wherever this is going to air. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Alon. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen, for having me. It's great. Thank you.